that individual headlines that we wanted to flag off for you. We now are going to move on to page 1 of the Economic Times. The Reserve Bank of India has questioned the stock market's exuberance, warned about a spike in bad loans, and signaled a withdrawal of revival measures introduced to cope with the COVID crisis when the economy returns to normal. Here's Maithili Busnurmat explaining the details.
The Reserve Bank of India's Financial Stability Report released this evening contains some rather alarming numbers. It says that the asset quality of banks are deteriorated very sharply, and even in the baseline scenario, gross non-performing assets of the entire banking sector are likely to increase from 8.5% in March 2020 to as much as 12.5% by March 2021. And if in case the situation worsens, and in the worst case scenario, we could see these gross NPAs go up to as much as 14.7. Now that is a very alarming number, because so far while we knew that non-performing assets are likely to rise, we did not have a number. And this is a number which the RBI, the first time that RBI has put a number to it. So it warns of the deteriorating asset quality. It says that extreme risk aversion, and it stresses the importance again of financial stability. Extreme risk aversion is likely to impact growth going forward. So all in all, not a very happy picture at all presented in the FSR, particularly because if banks are going to be impacted so adversely, particularly because of moratorium, which it warns is going to hit the profitability of these banks. Remember that the bulk of the banking sector is in the public sector, and anything that impacts the profitability of these banks is also going to impact the dividend payout to government. The report, as it is, warns of deteriorating central government finances, and add to that we have another whammy coming by way of deteriorating profitability of public sector banks. So it is a timely warning. It warns about growing NPAs, deterioration in asset quality, the need to beef up the capital, and also about the dangers of government revenues falling short. So a timely warning. Whether this will serve the purpose remains to be seen. It all depends on how the economy recovers post-COVID.
All right, FMCG conglomerate ITC reported a mixed bag on the earnings front for the first quarter. Many might have expected this. Lockdown, cigarettes weren't being sold for a long time in the initial stages, and people didn't have access to a lot of stores as well. The revenue came in at 9,500 versus 11,500, so that's down nearly 20%. Not a good sign. However, light at the end of the tunnel, whatever you want to call it, analysts actually had worse expectations than this. So in that sense, it's a beat. But my colleague Vinny, who tracks ITC closely, is going to give us a comprehensive review. Let's listen in.
ITC posted its Q1 FY21 numbers, and it's quite a tough quarter for the company as we were expecting. In terms of revenues, yes, the revenue was slightly above the ET Now expectations. The revenue stood at 9,501 crores versus 11,502 crores, though it is down 17.4% on a year-on-year basis. Now, overall, if you go to see the profitability as well as the margins, both have been below the ET Now expectations. The profitability was down by 25% and stood at only 2,342 crores for the quarter. While in terms of the margins have seen a 1,190 basis point decline. That's a very, very sharp decline that we're seeing in the margins, that the margins stand at only 27.8% for the quarter. Now, this has been generally a tough quarter for the company, especially in April and May. The cigarette business has been completely shut since then because it was under lockdown, not coming under essential items, and most of the revenue, that's 44% of the revenue, comes from the cigarette business, and the cigarette business overall saw an around 29% decline in their revenue. So, surely that is causing a very big pressure on the company's overall revenue as well. Talking about other business, that is other FMCG business, that has surely seen an improvement, as because most of the essential items come in that product, like atta, packaged food, health, hygiene, all that comes in the FMCG business, and that was essential items, so they could ramp up the production there. So that was one of the silver lining for the company, where they've seen an increase, and it's up by 10%. In terms of overall the hotel business, that was also again under severe pressure, as the occupancy rate was in single digits or absolutely up around the levels of no occupancy due to the lockdown. And In that, hotel revenue has declined by 94% for the company and stood at only 22 crores for the quarter. In terms of the agribusiness also, it has seen a slight improvement and it's up by 4% compared to last quarter. So that is surely showing an improvement, and on a YOY basis, they have seen a 4% increase. While the paperboard business also has seen a decline and has been under pressure and is at 33% only. Now, cigarette EBIT, which is also very important, that has surely seen a decline as well, and what we were expecting was 40% and we are seeing a 39% decline, so that was in line with what the ET Now expectation was. And margins surely have been under pressure due to the negative operating leverage that the company has seen, and that's why a more than 1000 basis point decline in margins. Now, this overall, looking at these numbers, it does suggest that there is going to be an overall decline in volume growth as well. And we'll surely keep a close eye on how what actually pans out for the company going forward as well.
Okay, thanks for that, Winnie. Back to page 1 of the Economic Times, and quite an interesting story. The Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, ITAT, on Friday ruled in favor of the trust in its appeal against an order of the Commissioner of Income Tax related to a 223 crore tax demand. So the ITAT backs Tata Trust in 223 crore tax demand case. The ITAT slams Commissioner of IT appeals for reversing the CBDT exemption. Major relief for Tata Education and Development Trust. So looks like a positive piece of information coming in from them this morning. With that being said, we have another story that we need to walk you through, and that's again on page 1 of the Economic Times. And according to Niti Aayog Vice Chairman, the economy will start recovering in the fourth quarter of the current fiscal and rebound to 6% growth in FY22. He said that green shoots are already visible in 15 to 16 sectors where business is back to pre-COVID levels. He also suggested that the government may introduce an other stimulus. So, it's going to take us a while to get back on our feet, but by Q4, we should definitely be there. We're getting some green shoots from the sectors which are likely to turn or rebound first, however you want to look at it. And the utmost priority will now be to make sure that whenever the time comes for recovery, that it pans out in a very strong manner. So that was that story. Let's now move on to another pretty important one from, again, page 1 of the Economic Times. My colleague Poonam is going to walk us through this, but let me give you a little bit of an introduction. According to this ET report, former RBI Governor Ajit Patels' new book points out reasons that led to his exit from the central bank in 2018. It suggests that it was RBI's bid to close loopholes in IBC and tighten screws on corporate borrowers that were at the heart of this dispute. But good morning, Poonam. Welcome to the show. Why don't you explain to us what this really means and what the implications really are?
Well, honestly, Varun, I do not see too many implications of this at the moment. This is my first reaction to this. But since all this commentary is coming from a book written by former RBI Governor Mr. Ajit Patel, while the book does mention that the differences with the then Finance Minister over the IBC or the IBC had led to a tussle between RBI as well as the then Finance Minister Piyush Goyal. The book also mentions that in mid-2018, instead of buttressing and future-proofing the gains so far, an atmosphere to go easy on the Patel ensued. Until then, for the most part, the Finance Minister and I were on the same page with frequent conversation on enhancing the landmark legislation's operational efficiency. This is a quote from the book that has been mentioned. Also, we understand that in May 2018, Mr. Arun Jaitley, who as the Finance Minister superheaded the insolvency law, was recuperating, and then Mr. Piyush Goyal was temporarily in charge. There was a tussle in terms of the loans cannot be arithmetically classified as NPA after 90 days. So there were some difference of opinion on that front. We also understand that there were other tussles between Reserve Bank of India as well as with the then finance minister in terms of demonetization. That also, there were difference of opinion between RBI and the government at that point in time as well. So yes, I guess not too many near-term implications of these, but yes, it is something that we come to light, that we know now that there were difference of opinion between the then finance minister as well as RBI in terms of the insolvency, how strict that they should be going in terms of the resolution of the cases, the timelines of the cases, etc. At the moment, I do not see too many far-reaching implications, but this is probably an eye-opener, and I guess it also happens in many other countries as well. This is my personal opinion, that we do have difference of opinion between the finance ministry as well as the central bank at many times. We can also see the case in point of US. So yes, we probably have to understand the difference of opinion do exist, and we have to take resolve the difference of opinion in a more credible manner probably.
All right, thanks for that very important update on that very interesting book. And it should be available in bookstores, or you could probably figure out where to get it online if you are interested. But let's move forward. Pankaj is now with us. Good morning, Pankaj. Welcome to this newspaper show. As always, great to have you with us. In the Times of India this morning on page 1, it seems that the race for this vaccine is really heating up. And apart from Zydus, you have Bharat Bio as well, which is beginning trials. So could you walk us through the competitive landscape and who the leaders really are?
So, when we just talk about this development, Varun, it's the race for Desi vaccine that seems to be hot up, and human trials are picking up as far as, the city is concerned. It's beginning in 6 cities now. So we have 6 different players and 6 different cities. Over 500 healthy volunteers in the age band of 18 to 55 are actually volunteers for this. And this becomes a very, very interesting story now, that how Indians, take forward this vaccine, whether they use, whether we talk about Zydus Cadila, whether we talk about Bharat Biotech. Of course, we have the developments of Serum, which of course is a tie-up of manufacturing business. So all of this is quite interesting. Phase 1, Phase 2 results should come out pretty soon. We have the global experience of the Oxford business. Oxford Research would actually release the Q1, Q2 Phase 1, Phase 2 results, and the others would also do it in a similar fashion. So let's wait and watch. It has begun. 500 healthy volunteers have come out for this. It's very important that you get healthy volunteers, because if a person has recovered from COVID, he would get the antibody. So it's very difficult to see what will happen. Let's see how it happens. We are leading. We are known as the pharmacy of the world. Let's see who makes this particular vaccine first.
Okay, thank you for that, Pankaj. Always great to get perspective from you as far as anything pharma or vaccine related goes. But let's switch gears a little bit now. We have Chandra, who's also joining us, and she's going to be talking about what's happening at Cafe Coffee Day, revealing that there's an entity linked to the deceased founder, Vijay Siddhartha, who owns the coffee chain around 3,500 crore. And his wife, Malvika Hegde, has reacted to this report. So Chandra's going to bring us more details on that.
Now, after Vijay Siddhartha's tragic death last year, he died by suicide, the board of Coffee Day Enterprises Limited had constituted a committee to probe the reasons behind his death and also the letter that he left behind. They had enlisted the former DIG of CBI to do this. Now, that report is finally out, and it had disclosed transactions between the private entities owned by Vijay Siddhartha and the publicly listed Coffee Day Enterprises. And it has revealed rupees 2,693 crore that is missing from the books of Coffee Day Enterprises Limited. So this is the money that needs to come back to the company from the private entities. Now, following this, Malvika Hegde, who is the wife of Vijay Siddhartha, the deceased founder Vijay Siddhartha, has written a letter underlying her commitment to the company. Now, remember, she took a position on the board after Vijay Siddhartha's demise. She has been working with the company to bring down the debt from 7,000 crore a year ago to around 3,000 crore now. In the letter, she has said that she is cognizant of all the things listed in the report, that she will cooperate with the authorities and that she's fully committed to the company, and that they will be taking more measures to bring down the debt. So we have to see how this goes forward. This is a commitment coming in from Malavika Hegde. Whether this will assuage the concerns of various stakeholders, we'll have to wait and see. But that's the latest as far as Coffee Day Enterprises is concerned.
Okay, thanks for that, Chandra. Let's move forward. Page 1, yet again. And according to the Economic Times, Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani expects the state will be able to contain the spread of COVID-19 in the next 2 weeks. It's quite a bullish statement there. Rupani also discussed changes in the state's COVID-19 management plan. He said that an industrial policy aimed at reviving economic activity in the state will be announced soon. So that's specific to Gujarat, but nonetheless, it's good to see a state has such a strong action plan and that they're so confident of both containing the virus as well as bringing about recovery. Let's remember it's also the home state of our Honorable Prime Minister, so it should be higher up in the priority. I mean, not that it should be, but looks like it is. With that being said, let's get a move on. We're now going to get you quickly the top 5 headlines from the Times of India, because we haven't done that yet. So the first one is a bit repetitive. Race for Desi vaccine hots up and human trials begin in 6 cities. So Pankaj was just talking about that and we spoke about that earlier. India sees a record one-day surge in cases to 49,000 and deaths to 757. So that is the largest number we have seen since the beginning of COVID, and it's a very scary number actually. IPL advanced by a week to kick off on September 19th. So IPL has shifted locations out of India and they're going to be starting, I believe, in the UAE on the 19th of September, which has got a fairly mild coronavirus situation if you compare to any other country. Gehlot protests at Raj Bhavan about what law and order governed. So that's self-explanatory. Do have a read if you're interested. Inspect all your Boeing 737s, says the DGCA to Airlines. So that plane has been a problem for Boeing, and the DGCA just making sure that all the mandatory checks are being done to the required extent. Okay, so go as always, the impaired segment, news for the hearing impaired. Tune in.